having a child is for the express purpose of making a better version of yourself. That's it. If you're not making a better version of yourself, you are a selfish individual. You should want better. You should want to experience.
Quite know where all the things are in my new shop since I've just kind of gotten settled in, and my employees are honestly doing most of the board repairs since at this point they're better at it than I am anyway. It is nothing more amazing than training people to the point where they're better than yourself. It is one of the best feelings you can have as an employer or as a mentor to anybody.
Or a parent. Making a better version of you is the ultimate expression of love for your children. Losing sleep, not having fun until they're of damn their age of a majority, 18, is what parents are supposed to be focusing on. Regardless if you had a great childhood or a miserable childhood, you want to make a better version of yourself. If you at school, your textbook were written in a majority of your schooling, why not give the child you are tasked with raising a better experience? If there are no sidewalks and you were forced to walk in the street going to and fro, why not give your child the ability to enjoy the safety of sidewalks as they move about? If your schools were rated substandard, elementary, middle school, high school, why not be in a position to have your children in a school that's B plus, A? What's wrong with that? How do you say it's good enough for me? That means it's good enough for my child. I turned out so great, I'm willing to repeat what has occurred with me and say that the child basically doesn't deserve better. It's almost as if one could say that you're deliberately making a equal or lesser version of yourself because you don't want them to have successes that you didn't experience. Parents are not supposed to be selfish to the point of making sure that their children suffer equally or more than the parents. Why not do what you can to give them a better existence? Give them a leg up in this world. The world is hard enough. Why force them to repeat all of your suffering for the sake of what? If you grew up in a single parent household in bliss, if you grew up in a single parent household in misery, if you grew up in a two-parent household in bliss, or a two-parent household in misery, your focus does not change. Single parent household, great childhood, you are head and shoulders above your parent who raised you, the best thing you can do at minimum is raise them in a 2-parent household. You don't double down and say, well, great parent, my parent raised me and I am the epitome of success, so I'm going to repeat that. If you grew up in a single parent household in misery, you put them in better position by raising them in a 2-parent household with better choice in spouse. If you grew up in a 2-parent household in bliss, you don't say, well, I turned out great, so I can do this by myself. You're taking away from them. If you grew up in a 2 household in misery, you don't say it didn't work for 2 parents, so I'm going to do it with just me. What's the easiest way to get started? At earliest age possible, and I'm not talking about 20, at earliest age possible. In fact, your parents should be putting into you the idea that you have to be a better version of them, and they demand that your children are a better version of you. The grandparents should be focused on grandchildren that have not been born yet to make sure that their grandchildren are doubly in better position in the world than that grandparent. If the grandparent knows that they grew up in an environment where the median income was $40,000, they should be on their kids behind to make sure their grandchildren are in an environment where, let's say, the median income is $60,000 to $70,000. Wouldn't that be the ultimate grandparents' love? To, through their own children, make sure that their grandchildren are in a better position than their parent and thus better than their grandparent. I'm not saying I experienced this, but this is where my mind is at. You kind of want to put it on a parent for the child suffering, but it really should be on the grandparent. Through their children, they put into them the work, the labor into making their children a better version of them, and making sure that they understand that through you, child, my grandchild better be in a better position than you. That is quasi-generational wealth. Quasi. Or at least the beginning of quasi-generational wealth. Grandparent. Not truly grandparent yet. Are you looking at the data that is provided freely as far as the best place to live, the best school system, the best career path to get in the best city, to get in the best school system? This is not an insurmountable task to take on. We have to we cannot just wish upon a star and give grace to, oh, well, we can't assume that when a child is born, the parent is not outwardly saying, oh, I want my child to be.
But every single person in this country who has children did not have them and say, I want you to be a bum living in a cardboard box under the bridge. That's not what they said when they gave birth to their children. They said, I want you to flourish and thrive and do well.
That's not how that works. You don't have to outwardly say, I want my child to be living in a cardboard box under a bridge. You don't even have to say it. You don't have to do anything. It's not even low-hanging fruit. It's literally the fruit on the ground. You don't have to put in any energy to get that fruit that's on the ground. At least low-hanging fruit, you might have to reach up. You might have to grab a branch and pull yourself up and grab that fruit. Poverty is easy. Poverty doesn't take a lot of work to be in. Getting out is where all the muscle cramps, the exhaustion, the inability to hang out and do what you want. These individuals who make it seem like, oh, well, I didn't want this for the child based on what? Where's your paperwork? Where's your receipt that you didn't want them to suffer?
Boyfriend back there?
That's my husband.
Your husband? Can he put the dog up?
Yes, sir.
Tell him to bring the dog out right now and put the dog up.
You see all this stuff? How am I going to get all this stuff?
Well, I'm going to talk to you after we get the dog taken care of.
Okay.
No, ain't no need to close the door, ma'am.
Well, sir.
Go get the dog. This is the eviction, ma'am. It's not moving day. It's the eviction.
Okay. I'm trying to make sure
Does
my
that
dog
look
doesn't get back out.
accidental?
Okay. We just tell him to go ahead and get the dog. Let's go.
Or does it
Baby.
take no work whatsoever to
Baby.
live like that?
This is
With
eviction.
children. I'm pretty sure when she was a young lady and he was a young man that they didn't have a conversation, I want to live in clutter with my children. And bear in mind, this is not a first generational thing. They grew up like that. All but guaranteed, not absolute, but all but guaranteed, the comfort of living like that as an adult with children, that's not first generation. What's that Cardi B song? I don't cook, I don't clean, but I got that ring. That's what I don't cook and I don't clean looks like. It takes work to want to keep up your house. It takes deliberateness, if that's a word, to want to keep your house tidy. Keep your house clean. To show hoarders, it doesn't take a lot of work to become a hoarder. No shame to them, but it does not take work to become one. They've been talking about, school choice. is the answer. Oh, the wealthy are at an advantage because they can afford to send their kids to private school, the better schools, the better systems. But there is nothing keeping anybody out of the good school system for their children other than the fact that the grandparent or even the great grandparent was not putting into their grandchild and great grandchild through their children. I'm going to make a better version of me, and through you, you are going to make a better version of you in order to fulfill my desire to make sure my great grandchild is head and shoulders above me. This is not rocket science. These are conversations that need to be discussed as early as possible.
Affluent people always have choice. They choose what neighborhoods to live in, and therefore often that's influenced by the schools in the neighborhood, or they choose to put their kids in private schools. And across the country, what we see is in many communities, the most affluent people have their kids in private schools. Low income and middle class people have their kids in public schools. That's a problem. It's a problem because often the resources are not in those public schools. Whether or not choice addresses that, though, is, I think, a question that I haven't seen proven. I was actually a charter school authorizer when I was in New York for 3 years. And while I would say that many of the charter schools that we authorized, I was on a trustee for SUNY, the State University of New York, were outstanding. It was also clear to me that creating those schools often came at the expense of the neighborhood public schools.
Always a problem. Throwing money at a situation never fixes the problem. Never fixes the problem in a way that everybody can say, yeah, that was a good idea. You think if you plop the better version of a school in an economically depressed area, this will solve the problem that is pervasive in the neighborhood? But the schools can only take so many kids. They have lottery systems, just like Section 8 almost, and they expect that the results are going to be different. But Section 8 generally produces generational dependency on the government. So school choice is creating dependency on the government, when it is the grandparents, great-grandparents, who are supposed to be tasked with making sure that their grands or their great-grands, who they might not ever see, are in a far better place than them. Why depend on a lottery system to possibly give your child an edge on you? Even if you got the lottery system, why are you still in the neighborhood where there's a lottery system? You got the leg up, correct? Then why is your child in the same system to hope to get and win the lottery to get into school, as opposed to you got picked to get into the school and you use that as a springboard to move to where you don't have to work with the lottery? They are crippling under the guise that they're supporting. I am not saying that Bootsy said specifically that he is creating generational wealth with this. I'm going to assume that the person saw this and decided to say that this is generational wealth. This is not generational wealth. There's no proof of concept. The Fords have proved generational wealth. You can almost say Warren Buffett, one of the wealthiest men in the world, has not proven generational wealth. A, because he's still alive. B, because his great grandchildren, I don't think they've been born yet. And what if the great grandchildren are born, they have not made it to the age where they are in charge of anything of substantial wealth, and prove that they have not squandered it. You've got to have more than, oh, I'm going to buy my son a house. This is the beginning of generational wealth. He's 18. There's no proof that he hasn't screwed it up. Lost the house because of back taxes. Lost the house because it was seized because he took a HELOC on it and didn't pay it. There's no proof of concept that generational wealth has been created. In all honesty, generational wealth does not occur until the person who started the ball rolling has died and their great grandchild is still maintaining. Again, I am not saying that he said this. If he did, again, no proof of concept until he is gone and his great grandchildren have been able to prove that they got the knowledge to not only get the wealth, but not squander it. You know, after that, go downhill. Hey, that's on them. The great grandchild, they screwed up, But I'm saying, initially, Warren Buffett has not proven generational wealth, especially considering A, he's still alive, B, there isn't someone who's 4 to 5 generations removed from him as far as great grandchild. No shot at Warren Buffett, but I'm just saying. Anyway, if you like what you're hearing, please consider liking, subscribing, and please leave a comment. Thank you.